So great. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. My name, I'll actually go to that slide. My name is Alyssa, and I am on the admissions team here at Flatiron School. I work with all kinds of students as they get to the admissions process. I do interviews with them. I am located here in Tampa, Florida, which is great. Like I said, I'm really excited that it's not snowing where I am. That's a little bit about me. I'm a DIYer, dog mom, love organizing things. So, Marie Kondo is my spirit animal, things like that. So I'm excited. I know I won't probably get to know all of you, but get to share a little bit more about Flatiron School and what that looks like. Also be able to answer your questions at the end here if you guys do have those. Again, if you guys can put those in the Q&A section of the webinar instead of the chat, that would be great. I will try to monitor the chat as much as I can, but we'll kind of dive right into everything. Perfect. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about Flatiron School kind of as a whole. We'll dive a little bit into each of the programs that we offer. We'll talk about the admissions process if you are interested in one of our programs. And then also a little bit about career services, because obviously that's kind of the goal of getting into a program like Flatiron School and doing a boot camp is to hopefully better your job prospects and outcome at the end, as well as leave time for Q&As, like I mentioned. So excited to dive into that. Our motto here at Flatiron School is that we want to enable the pursuit of a better life through education. So through software engineering, data science, product design, cybersecurity, all of those programs that we do offer here at Flatiron School. So hopefully you guys have come to the right place to do all of that. We were founded back in 2012. So we've been around for about 10 years now, which is super exciting. We are one of the longest standing boot camps in the space. So we have 10 years not only of experience with helping students get jobs, but also perfecting our curriculum, things like that. So I really think that it's a really good program. We have campuses if you're looking for in-person cohorts in New York City and Denver. Those are mainly for software engineering, but we do offer some of our other programs as well in person if you are looking for that. And then there'll be a lot of resources too that we can share out to you, or if you do end up applying, talking to your admissions representative, they can share out these things to you guys, but hopefully we'll answer most of the questions that you'll have as we go. So as you can see, we have helped, as I mentioned, a lot of students get through not only our program, but also get some great jobs. These are some of the companies that we've helped with. So some really big names on there: Google, Facebook, now Meta, Apple, every kind of big name. There's also a bunch listed on our website. If you guys are interested in learning more, go to our LinkedIn page. There's an alumni tab that lists all of our alumni and where they got jobs too. So that's a great resource for you all as well. I want to dive a little bit into kind of our modes of learning at Flatiron School. So regardless of which option you choose, or I guess program that you choose, you'll have two different options. You'll have a full-time program or a part-time, or you'll see that listed as flex. For the full-time program, it is 15 weeks. It is a fixed time commitment. So that will vary based on program, and if you do an in-person and an online course, times of days will vary, but most programs are from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's typically an Eastern Standard Time option and a Mountain Time, since we are based in New York and Denver for those in-person cohorts. And that's Monday through Friday. You're not in lecture like the whole day, so don't freak out about that because that's a lot of lecture for one day if you ask my opinion. But it'll be 9 hours a day. You'll get breaks. Typically there's like a lecture in the morning, and then you have labs and assignments that you work on, take a break for lunch, kind of rinse, repeat in the afternoon. That's kind of what the day in the life looks like if you're doing either the online option, which would be via Zoom that you're logged into those hours, or on campus where you will be physically on campus for those hours. So that's the full-time program, again, 15 weeks. And then you have the part-time program that can take up to about 40 weeks. That's kind of what we want you to shoot for. You can finish the part-time program faster if you have more time to dedicate within the week. The 40-week pace is about 20 to 25 hours that you're spending on the program, but it's asynchronous, so you can really work at it whenever works best for you. There are typically technical coaches available. It varies by program, but mostly nights and weekends. Software engineering has it almost 24/7. So there's a lot of help if you guys need it. There are some live events too that you can jump in during the week if it works out for your time schedule, but you're not required to attend any of those. The only really live thing or time commitment that you need to attend is a 30-minute check-in about every other week with your instructor for your one-on-one, and they'll just make sure that you're pacing well, that you don't have additional questions, things like that. You'll also be included in a Slack channel, so you can ask questions there as well. But it's really great for people that are working full-time or even part-time or have kiddos that they need to pick up or whatever that looks like for you. That part-time option is really nice because it is flexible even between like when you finish. You could finish as soon as 20 weeks or take 40 weeks. I think the minimum per module is going to be about 12 weeks, which does put it out to about 60 weeks, but we want you to kind of shoot for that 40-week option if you can. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the different programs. I know I mentioned kind of all of the ones that we offer, but I'll tell you a little bit about each of them so you can kind of get a better idea of which one might be best for you. We are going to start off with software engineering. It is one of our most popular courses. It is pretty beginner friendly. You don't necessarily need to know coding right off the bat. It is helpful, obviously, if you do have a little bit of exposure to that, but that's basically what you're going to be doing all day, every day is coding. So you're going to learn how to design, develop, maintain, test, evaluate websites, computer software, things like that. And those are a few of the job titles that you'll be able to see out there and what you'll be able to do when you're done, software engineers or software development. But you're basically writing the code of telling the website like how it functions. So like if I click on this like button on the website, like I am writing the code of what that button actually does. So you'll be able to learn a lot about that, which is great if you're into that. This is kind of a breakdown of what you're learning within each of the modules. There is going to be a little asterisk for this. The front end is going to say the exact same for the next, year. But in 2023, we are transitioning into Python and Flask for the back end. So you'll learn front end fundamentals, you'll learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and then where it says Ruby on and Rails, that's going to change into Python and Flask. But for this last cohort of 2022, there's still going to be Ruby on Rails. So we do have our syllabuses listed on our website as well. So if you guys are interested in downloading those, absolutely do that so you can dive deeper into each of these topics and what that might look like. But here's kind of a brief overview for you. You are also going to learn, which I probably saw in here in your final project. This is a little bit more about that, but eventually what you'll be able to do is build a website from start to finish. So this is a sample project that a student did. It was a project called Money Moon. It was for people that weren't necessarily, they wanted to combine their income and expenses so they can kind of view or have visibility into each other's incomes, but they weren't like married or didn't necessarily wanted to combine bank accounts. So this student created this. It was a helpful thing for her and her partner at the time. So there's a YouTube video out there if you guys want to watch her final presentation on it, but it's kind of cool to see, where she started and where she finished at the very end. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely check that out. Our next program is going to be data science. So what you are learning within data science is using obviously scientific method, processes, algorithms to extract data from using coding. So you're going to learn mainly Python, and then you're going to add in like the math components of the science part. So you're going to learn a little bit of statistics. You're going to use a little bit of calculus, different things like that to basically organize and clean and scrape data so that you can draw implications and help inform business decisions. So you're really a liaison between the business and kind of the data, which is kind of cool because it can be applied to a lot of different industries. Like every industry and every person is going to need data scientists in the future. So it's definitely really good job security. These are a couple of different job titles that you'll be able to have when you finish: data scientist, data analyst. The weird part about data science is that it's been around for a little while, but the industry hasn't really standardized like what to call them yet. So those are some job titles, but they could also be business analyst. There's kind of a lot of different ones out there. So when you really dive into companies or what exactly you want to do, you might find that they call it slightly different based on or from company to company. But that's data science. Here's the different modules, as I mentioned. So the first module is going to be kind of a brief overview. You're going to learn mostly Python, some of the data cleaning and visualization tools. Then you're going to get into statistics and linear regression, so that math component. And then you're going to hit machine learning and AI. And then the fourth module is going to be a little bit more complicated topics. So you'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into each of those things. The harder part about data science, it's not as beginner friendly. Not to say that you can't do data science from nothing, but it's good to have at least a little bit of background in Python or a STEM background. A lot of like engineers, scientists, people in that realm typically come and do data science because they do have that background. But I would say if you don't have a little bit of both, have one or the other, because it's kind of hard to learn those topics simultaneously. So there's a little prep work that might be needed for this particular course. Here's a little bit about a project for this particular course. I won't go into it too in depth, but they were basically able to draw implications about, I think this was about the different Marvel movies and percentages of like women in film, things like that, which I think is really cool. And I believe this is also on our YouTube page too, if you want to watch a final project video, but there's that. Our next program is going to be cybersecurity. So what you're learning within this course, it is kind of a survey course. You're going to learn kind of the ins and outs of systems and networks and how to protect not only physical assets, but also cloud and virtual assets as well. So not only are you helping like businesses operate safely and not get hacked, but also, there's a lot of other things that you'll be able to do as well. The thing about our cybersecurity course is that we do not offer certifications as a part of this, but you will have all the base knowledge that you need to go out and get those certifications. And I want to caveat this because this is a question that we get a lot when we're talking to cybersecurity students, but certifications are not like one size fits all. It really depends on the company. And a lot of times your company will sponsor you if you are required to get that specific certification. So just kind of know that. But again, the syllabuses are online. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper into that, you can. This is kind of an overview of what you'll be learning within each of the modules. Again, it's a 5-module. I know you don't see the 5th module, but it's a 5-module program. You'll get into like networks, systems, threat intelligence. You will learn a bit of coding within this program. They do focus again on Python. So you'll need to know a little bit of that, but it's still a very beginner friendly course. It is geared a little bit more towards the techies in the world, because it is more like hardware, software, like good for people that maybe want to build their own computers or have knowledge of things like that. Not to say that you have to have built a computer to do cybersecurity, but those are kind of the students that tend to do well. I will also caveat this with cybersecurity. If you are getting a laptop for the course, make sure that you are looking at our computer requirements that are also listed on our website, or your admissions representative can share that with you, because right now our program doesn't support Macs. So we want to make sure that you have a good computer that will run the programs that we need it to. So that's a little cybersecurity plug there. This is an example again of a portfolio for our cybersecurity students. This is kind of a dashboard that was created to help like troubleshoot threats and kind of show you where there might be some vulnerabilities, things like that. So that's kind of a little bit of window into what you would be capable of after the course is done. And then last and finally, in terms of programs, we have product design, or UX and UI design. They focus on not only like user interfaces, so like what you visually see within like a website or application and how it looks, and is it aesthetically pleasing, and are these colors draw your eye, or where do you place the buttons on a website? That's what like user interface is, but also the back end side of like, how does it function? Is it efficient? If I click this button, does it take me to the right web page, or how many clicks will it take me to check out in my cart? Things like that you're helping companies or shops, things like that, troubleshoot and research so that you can become the most efficient as possible and user friendly as possible. So it's not only the design piece, but the research and development side to kind of troubleshoot user problems and their experience. So these are some titles that you'll see: product designer, UX, UI designer, UX researcher, interactive design. You could say this is a full stack designer program. So you can kind of focus on one or the other. Similar to software engineering, I know we didn't say this in software engineering, but you will be a full stack software developer when you're done. So you can focus on front end, back end, or both. Same thing with product design. You could focus on UX, you could focus on UI, or independently, of those, are full stack. So that's product design in a nutshell. These are the different modules. So you focus on UX first, and what that entails. You'll do UI second, and then kind of give yourself some different projects to practice on in both ways. And then you'll have a portfolio that you'll graduate with after you're done. With all of our programs, you do graduate with a portfolio. And that's really what serves as the applicable job experience when you go into the work world. You have something to show for it after the course is done, even though it's not necessarily a degree. It's a certificate of completion, and then this applicable portfolio that you can share of things that you've done, so you can kind of vouch for the fact that you know what you're doing. And with that, that's a perfect segue. Oh, I forgot about this slide. This is a sample of a product design project. Again, I believe these are also on our website. There's a lot of good YouTube videos on our YouTube page if you haven't taken a look at that, but this is kind of a what a designer, they designed this particular website to kind of show different crops and hydroponic technologies, things like that. But there's that. Now my segue into kind of next steps, processes, what that looks like, and just kind of who Flatiron School is and the people that you're going to interact with. So obviously when you start to apply, you'll interact with the admissions team. Then once you start, you'll work with your instructor and technical coaches. And then after that, you'll segue into working with your career coach specifically. This is a little bit more of a timeline of what that looks like. So you'll submit a written application. Our admissions team will reach out to you and schedule an interview with you. It's 20 minutes. It's nothing technical. It's all more getting to know you and your goals for the program, things like that. And then you'll have an admissions assessment. Either you can take that before your interview or you can do it after. Typically, we prefer you to do it before so we can discuss the results with you. It's 15 minutes. Again, nothing technical. It's all critical thinking, problem solving, all of those good things. Depending on which program you're in, depends on what your score needs to be. But basically, you just want to get through as many questions as you possibly can to score the highest that you can. After those are all complete, you'll get an admissions decision. That whole process can take probably about a week, depending on how quickly you schedule your interview after your written application is submitted. And then if you're admitted to the program, there's typically a deposit that you'll pay. For most of our programs, it is $500. That can vary based on the program, but just ask your admissions representative and they'll be able to share that with you. And then after your deposit's paid, and even before, if you really wanted to dive into it and you didn't know maybe which program you wanted to do, you can complete your pre-work or the prep course that's listed on our website. That's a really great way if you're deciding between a couple of different programs to dive into them each and see which one you like better. Depending on the program, depends on how many hours, but it can range from about 25 with product design to about 60 with software engineer, like hours for those prep courses. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time from when you apply to when you want to start so you can get through that, as well as finalizing your tuition and some of the other documentations that you need to sign and set up. So, and then you have day one of class. So there's that. So as I mentioned a little bit about the admissions process, really you can apply whenever, but I would say give yourself about 1 to 2 months prior to class starting or your start date. Those are all listed on our website. We typically do have classes about every 3 weeks or so. Just depends on the program. Again, those are listed on the website. And you can ask your admissions representative too, and they can share those with you. But that will give you time to get through the prep work, secure your financing, also sign all your documentation and make sure that you're ready. As I mentioned in each of the programs that don't necessarily have to have experience in order to do our courses. I tell my students all the time, if you can get through the prep work and you feel good about it, then chances are you'll do really well within the course itself. So if you're nervous about it or don't know if you're ready, do the prep work, see how you feel, then apply. There's no harm in doing that. So there is that. So I talked a little bit about these processes already, but you'll submit your written application, you'll complete your admissions interview, you'll do your assessment. This is an example of some of the questions on there. So there are some like math and like spatial reasoning and you'll feel like you're taking the SATs again if you haven't been in school for very long. It took me a very long time to take the assessment because I was nervous about it. So don't be too nervous. You do get a couple attempts to try to pass it. So just take your time. Obviously not too much time because you have 15 minutes, but take your time and really work hard on it and you'll do fine. Then you'll have your admissions decision, usually within about 1 to 3 business days. And then, oops, sorry, I skipped too fast. And then the prep work for data science and cyber, it's about 40 hours, product design, 25 to 30 hours, software engineering is about 60 hours. And again, you can jump into that now if you really want to. You'll also have access to a Slack channel while you're doing pre-work. So if you do have questions, that's available to you, which is great. Great to build community early. And then I mentioned a little bit about this already, but there is some different financing options for our students. We have 3 different options. We have a pay upfront option. So you would make your initial deposit and then you'll pay the $16,900 all upfront. That is changing in I think at the end of this month for our software engineering program. So just confirm that with your admissions representative of the pricing. All the other programs are saying the same, but software engineering might change. So if you're thinking about applying and getting in, you definitely want to do that pretty soon. There's an installment plan that's 12 months, 0 interest. Again, that comes with a deposit, and then you would make your installment plan first payment after you start. It's usually like the first of the month after you start. So say you start in December, you wouldn't start paying it back till January. So there's that option. And then we do have a couple of loan partners that we work with, Ascent and Climb, and they do have like interest only or possible deferment till after the course is completed. So definitely check those out. It is based on your credit, so they'll do a soft credit check for initial approval and then a hard credit check once you kind of sign your paperwork, but that is based on credit. And then we also do offer some scholarships to students. Those are listed at the bottom of our finance page. So if you do have questions about that, take a look at those. They rotate every so often. The qualifications are listed on there. If you do want to apply for a scholarship, ask your admissions representative, and there's a specific form that they'll share with you to fill out. Because if you try to apply again, it'll take you through like the application process again, and we don't want that. So ask your admissions representative. They're a wealth of knowledge. So definitely check that out. I haven't dove into this too much yet, but we do offer career coaching for our students. That's included in your tuition. So I definitely know that, 16, 17K is quite a lot of money to invest in a program, but I think that this makes everything worth it. If you go out and get a degree, you're not getting career coaching as specified to you as this. So while you're in the program, you'll do about 5 different workshops with our career service team, 1 per module typically. They'll focus more on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, networking, different things like that. And then once you're completely done, you'll get matched one-on-one with a career coach, and they'll dive deeper into your background, what you've done within the program, things like that to help you get to where you want to be after the course is done. So they'll help with things like your technical and behavioral interviews. They'll do cover letter and resume support. They'll help you do some research into, different things of how to basically beat the bots. As we all know that a lot of bots read applications nowadays. So how do you leverage the things that you learned at Flatiron School to get a job? Our outcomes are on our jobs report if you guys do have questions about that, but we've helped so many students get jobs, and although it's not guaranteed, we have a really high success rate. So definitely check out the jobs report and see the outcomes there. All right. I know that was a lot. Oh, I'm doing pretty good on time. So I'm going to open the Q&A right now and take a look at these questions. Let's start out. Okay, so someone asked, how much did it cost, or does it cost for the software engineering course in New York? So it is the same for any of our programs, whether you do like an in-person, an online, or a flexible program. It's the same price. So right now that's $16,900. That will go up at the end of November for software engineering. So if you're thinking about applying, wanting to get into December or January, apply soon, schedule your interview, try to get through as quickly as possible so you can lock in that lower rate. It will be going up to, I think, $17,900. So not that much more, but $1,000 is still a lot. So definitely make sure that you can get in there. So we got that one. So for part-time, somebody asked if part-time we can attend live sessions, and that is a yes for software engineering. You won't be able to like attend the live ones in like on campus or anything like that, but you will get a calendar with the live events that you can go to. Oftentimes it doesn't necessarily mesh up with what you're actually learning, but if it does and it's available, you can absolutely attend those. Also too, we have guided practices and open office hours for students to attend whenever they can. So if it works out for your schedule part-time, then you can absolutely join those, but you're not required as a part-time student. Someone asked about the hours. I think I answered that already, but I'll reiterate the hours for campus. So you will be on campus from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like I said, you do get breaks and lunch and things like that. I mean, you'll provide your own lunch, but you'll get lunch breaks and other breaks within it. So it's not just straight lectures for 9 hours, but you are committed to that time frame there. Perfect. Great. Do you offer certifications for software engineering and data science programs? So none of our programs have certifications specifically, but you will get like a certificate of completion and then your portfolio. And that's really what offers the live your experience. Okay, let's see. I'll answer that. So another question is, do you envision any changes for demand within these positions considering the recent mass layoffs? Yes, that's a great question. I've been getting this a lot lately in my interviews as well. We are still seeing a lot of students get placements. Even before the mass layoffs, like there is so many more positions than there is to fill them. So definitely, still try if this is what you're wanting to do. I think it's a lot of networking. It's a lot of, persistence in your job search. So I definitely don't think that should discourage you from A, doing a program, and B, going into a career that you're passionate about. So definitely want you to be able to do that. And honestly, it's the best time to probably be in school right now because of the mass layoffs that have happened. By the time you're done with a 15-week program, you'll probably be in much better shape. Like everyone's getting new budgets in January. So definitely be a lot more hiring that happens. So great question. Another question about software engineering. So this student asked if or why we're switching from Ruby on Rails to Python next year. We are seeing that more companies are posting that Python is a language that students need to know. There has been extensive research by our software engineering curriculum team So definitely want you to feel good about that everything's going towards Python. As you guys saw with data science and cyber, like that's the main language that they're using. So I think kind of the world is trending towards Python. So definitely would say that's why we've switched over. Okay, great, perfect. Liam asked if you had to have a specific cohort in mind before you took the assessment. The answer is no, but you should have a relative idea of when you do want to start before you apply, because your application is only valid for a certain amount of time. So if you apply like early on, and say you don't want to start for another 4 to 6 months, your application could expire within that time. So try to have at least somewhat of a start date in mind. Like I said, the 1 to 2 months prior is a good kind of idea that way. Answered that one. Great. Somebody asked about admissions. I think maybe they're talking about acceptance rates, which that's a really hard thing to judge in not necessarily just boot camps, but just in the world in general, because it's very subjective. We don't report specifically on that data, but if you submit a really good written application, if you submit a good or you do really well in the assessment and you do well in your interview, I think you have really good chances of getting in. So just try your best and hope for the best outcome. We talked a little bit about scholarships. As I did mention, it is, if you find our tuition and financing page on our website, at the very bottom, there's all of our scholarships that are listed. They're like little cards that slide. If you click on each of those, it'll tell you the qualifications. So take a look at those. Another question about the assessment. They mentioned if you don't pass the assessment, do you get to take it again? And the answer is yes, you do get 2 attempts to take it. Make sure you're in a quiet room, make sure you're prepared to take it. Oftentimes we see students not pass because they're like, oh, my kid was like screaming in the background, or I didn't realize it was timed, or I didn't realize I was starting the test. So make sure you're in a mode where you can answer like SAT type questions before you take the assessment. So that, I think that'll give you the best shot at passing. This is a great question. Somebody asked if the deposit that you pay is refundable, and that answer is yes. So say you're not sure about the course, but you want to try to pursue it. You want to try to pursue financing or the prep work or whatever that is for a specific cohort, and you get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, like I hate this. This is the worst. Or you try to secure your financing for a loan and say you don't get approved. That's no problem. You just, the only thing you maybe waste, if you want to call it that, is just a little bit of your time. So you can withdraw your application and get that money back. So that $500 just tells us, yep, I'm ready to start and I want to enroll in this particular cohort, and secures your admission. And then you can kind of work through everything else after that. So there's that one. This is so many good questions tonight, guys. Like, I'm like impressed. I'm thankful. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. So this one is how big is the classes or cohorts? For our live or in-person cohorts are about 20 to 25 students. The flexible cohorts do range a little bit just because everybody's kind of at a different pace. But that's typically what we try to hold our cohorts to, is about 20 to 25 students. This is another great question, and something that I did mention, but I'll reiterate that. If you do choose the part-time option or the flexible option, you can finish it faster. Suggested is 40 weeks, maximum is 60 weeks, so 12 weeks per module. But you can finish it much faster, especially if you have like experience maybe already in one of the courses. You might fly through some of the modules a bit faster. So you absolutely can finish it faster. You'll just schedule that in those check-ins a bit more frequently with your instructor to make sure that you can get your final module project schedule, sign off on all that stuff for you, but absolutely you can finish it faster. Yeah, this is a great question too. So as I mentioned, so this question is, what is the percentage of students that find jobs after graduation? If you haven't already, check out our jobs report, because there is it's like a 90-page report, and there is more information than you probably want to know on there. And each program is listed with their outcomes, with salary, with percentages, all of those things. Take a look at that. I don't want to misquote anything because it is a 90-page report. I don't have it memorized, but take a look at it, see what you need within there. And if there's not more detail for you, reach out to your admissions representative and they can share a bit more with you. So for cybersecurity hours part-time, is there an opportunity to hear from graduates and hear about their experience just to know how they manage studying? That is a great question. So basically they're asking about can you connect with alumni? And not even just for cybersecurity, we have these events called Ask Me Anything. If you go to the events page, probably like you found this event, you'll be able to see those listed, but it's typically with an alum that has gone through the program, and you can ask them questions. Even there's a lot of in-person events too, where they have happy hours or networking, things like that. That is a great space to ask those questions. And even on our website, I keep saying our website, on our YouTube page, there is webinar podcasts that we've done with students, former students, and they talk about their experiences too. So definitely check those out if you haven't done that already. I know I'm putting more homework on your guys' plate, but definitely check that out. And we're happy to send those resources to you as well as most of your admissions representatives have those as well. I think I mentioned this already, but we do have part-time courses. That's that 40-week option. I did mention why we changed to Ruby or from Ruby. So we're gonna skip that one. Yes, so I don't believe that you'll get the slide deck for this particular webinar. But it is going to be recorded, and typically they will send it out to you after you attend the event. So in case you might have missed it, you absolutely can review it again. Let me just make sure that I went through all my slides. Perfect. I'm going to keep answering questions, and then I'll talk about next steps because we do have a little bit more time. So if you guys do have more questions, feel free to shout those out in the Q&A portion. I'm also going to check the chat too, just to make sure. I'm going to come back to the chat questions, but hopefully we'll get to those as well. Oops, sorry, I keep doing that. Great. There is a question about being a high school student looking into data science. I'm dual enrollment. Full-time, is there an age limit for the programs? It's only meant for working in. That's a great question. So you do need to have your high school diploma and have graduated high school, so you can have a GED too. Proof of high school completion is required, and you have to be at least 18 years or older. So it does stink for some of those students like that are dual enrollment, that maybe are going to graduate a little bit early. You do have to be 18 years old, but once you do, go for it. You absolutely can take one of our courses. I think it's a great option as opposed to college. I have 2 people within my family that are graduated degrees in computer science, and they're like, I really wish there was a boot camp around when I was in school, because it kind of cuts through all the gen eds and some of those things to get you kind of the meat and potatoes of what you need to learn. So definitely encourage a boot camp, not just because I work at Flatiron School, but also from people in the field that have experienced it. Is there information about starting salaries for students? Typical, maybe 5 years. It's a great question, Tristan. So they asked if there is starting salaries for students and like the progression. So there is starting salaries on our jobs report that I mentioned. Something that would be good to connect with a career coach about, and there is some career coaching events too that are open to prospective students on our website. There are events. Definitely check those out, but that's a great question to ask them specifically. And even if you go, like I said, on our LinkedIn page, there's an alumni tab. If you click on that, you can see where our grads are working and how long they've been working there. And definitely feel free to reach out to them because they were in your shoes at 1.2 deciding on what boot camp to take, and is it worth it? So reach out to them. Like, no guarantee that they might answer you, but definitely try, because more often than not, they're really open to speaking with students. So definitely do that. I'm going to try to answer a few more questions here. I don't know that I'll get to all of them, but we definitely will answer them and follow up if I don't get to your question. Hopefully we can, but try to speed through these last few ones. How long was Flatiron School in existence? I did mention this earlier in the presentation, but we've been around for about 10 years. And that I think it's Robert Jacobson, but we've been around for about 10 years, and there is placement percentages on our jobs report, depending on which program you're choosing. So take a look at that. We answered that already. If an application is declined, can you reapply? That's a great question. Yes, I think there is a 3-month waiting period, just because we do want to make sure that you've taken some time to think about it. Hopefully we've given you some point of feedback on maybe why you weren't accepted into the program. Maybe it's further prep needed or different things like that. So we do want to wait a little bit, but you absolutely can reapply after if you don't get admitted to the program. I did mention already a little bit about the class schedule, but for the live courses or the full-time courses, it is a live lecture. It's not going to be pre-recorded. However, for the part-time, they are pre-recorded and loaded onto your learning platform. That's what allows it to be asynchronous and flexible. You can kind of work on it on your own pace because they're recorded previously from lectures that were given in the past. So there is that. It's a great question. Someone asked if software engineering got into data structures and algorithms. Not really. I would take a look at the full syllabus just to be sure, but it doesn't really get too much into that. If you're thinking about algorithms or data structures, I would say data science is where you want to go for that. There is not a way to shadow a live class. That's something somebody asked. But there are a lot of, like I said, good YouTube videos on our website, as well as some really good events too. A lot of times there's little webinars or seminars where one of our instructors will present a topic within either data science, cybersecurity, or whatever program you're looking for. So be on the lookout for those. Those definitely happen. We try to do one at least once a month, so check out our events page, but that would be a good way to shadow a live class or get a feel for how a live class is. Okay, I think we're almost to the end, and we're getting real close to time. Somebody asked about, they don't have a computer science background. What would be the best course for like entry level? I would say if you're not sure, software engineering is a really good base because you're learning coding, and that'll give you really good like kind of entry into tech. And then you can always branch off into any of the other disciplines if you're interested, because you'll have the foundation of coding. Cybersecurity gets into more network, software, systems, things like that. So it is good to have a coding background, but it kind of builds off of what you would learn in software engineering. And same with like data science, you learn a little bit of coding, but you kind of branch off from that. So I think those are not necessarily more advanced topics, but those are, I think, kind of jumping off points from software engineering. So if you're really debating on kind of where to get in with tech, I would say that. The most, I think, like beginner friendly or least probably technical course is product design. So that one has the least amount of like coding. So if coding is like not for you, but you still want to get into tech, I would say product design is a great space for you to be in, because you kind of live in more tech adjacent roles versus like having to know how to code. So that's a great course for you. Someone asked about physical classrooms. So the only physical classrooms we have are Denver, Colorado, and New York City in Manhattan. Those are the only physical locations that we've opened since COVID, and I don't see any of our other campuses being open in the near future, but always check our website and see, but probably we'll stick with our Denver and New York City campus. Okay, well, it looks like we probably answered. Let me see in the chat. I know there was a couple in here. Let's see. So somebody asked if the data science course was offered in Denver and in New York. I believe they are only running the data science course in person in New York City in 2023. But I would check our website because that changes on a daily, changes for me as an admissions person. We have a whole calendar that I look at. I don't have access to this right now on the webinar, but ask your admissions representative and they should be able to tell you when each of those are. Been in contact about scholarships. In terms of scholarships, talk to your admissions representative. Like I said, there is a specific form that you'll fill out for that. But that is not going to be, there's not like a specific scholarship department. So ask your admissions person when you do apply, and they should be able to share more detail about that. If we need extra time for a module, that's a great question. This is from the chat. So there is a little bit of extra time given for modules in the flexible program, but for the full-time 15-week program, it's just going to be straight through. There's not additional time that you're going to get, because it is such a shortened program. So it's really going to be drinking through a fire hose a little bit. So you're going to need to know that going into it. But if you feel good and confident about the prep work, you'll do just fine within the full-time course. Let's see. Okay. Oh my gosh, wow, 4 minutes to spare. Awesome. If you guys do have a bit more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I think I have one more that just popped up. Somebody asked about coaching patterns. So you will have an instructor for your particular cohort in both options. And you'll also have technical coaches, but it is like lecture, and then you have like labs and assignments that you'll do to like practice it. Sometimes there is specific reading that you'll do as well. So it's kind of a mixture. I don't know if that really answers your question, but hopefully it does. But yeah, that's how I would answer that. Let's see. Next steps for you guys with 3 minutes to go. Let's do it. So if you are interested or need more specific questions answered, we have lovely admissions representatives waiting to talk to you. You can schedule a 10-minute chat if you want to and ask like all those pointed questions that you guys were asking of me. Great resource. That is a link to schedule the chat. If you're like, yes, Flatiron School is for me, this is what I want to do, go to flatironschool.com/start and apply. The application is free. There's no cost to you. Once that is in our system, our admissions team will reach out to schedule something with you. It'll also prompt you to probably schedule your admissions interview or take your admissions assessment. So be ready and prepared for that. And also, like I mentioned, there's a ton of really good virtual events. There is some also physical events that happen on our Denver campus and our New York City campus. So if you guys are close to those campuses and want to join those, absolutely do that. That is the best way to know, who we are and how we operate. Those events are amazing. I'm available if you guys have additional questions or need anything. Feel free to schedule some time with us. If not me, another admissions representative, but we are so excited that you guys are considering Flatiron School. Please, reach out to us if you've got additional questions, but hopefully this was helpful and we will be able to see you guys real soon. Thanks so much.